we had talked about on the show that Dave recently was involved in the making of a short film. It's actually a micro short. It's called Routine. And I have a few images from the premiere of Routine, which ironically Dave did not attend, but I did. Just to provide some context, this short film Routine was actually directed by Russ Emanuel, who's also the director of Occupants, which is the film that I'm an associate producer on. I also did some behind the scenes filming on Occupants. And we actually did a comic book tie-in to the film Occupants with Dave. Russ was the writer, I was the editor, and basically Dave did all the artwork. So that's a very rare comic book, by the way, but that's how we kind of know each other. And since then, Russ and Dave have done another project called Routine. And what's funny is we were talking off the air, Dave. You still haven't seen it, correct?
No, I have not, and I owe everyone a lot of apologies. Ripley, stop. Hold on, let me move this. Ripley's in here, and she's very interested in the microphone. So let me move the microphone so she doesn't look at her something.
She's intrigued by the fact that Dave hadn't seen his own movie yet.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. I intended to be there for the Zoom premiere. I was excited about it, and I got into just so everyone knows, Kirby Tees right now is basically based out of my garage, and so I've got all the equipment and everything out of my garage, and I'm printing shirts, and that was a heavy production day because I was testing all the equipment, and I was actually doing a fairly well for my operation anyway, a decent sized run. And there's only one employee, me, so I was doing all the work myself, and I lost track of time, and then I had my phone actually was sitting somewhere, and I still had my ringer off from the night before, so I wasn't even getting notifications or people are like, "Hey, where are you at? Hey, where are you at? Are you I didn't even see them. So again, my apologies. I
was one of those people. People sending Dave messages. Where are you, bud? Come on. This is your moment. This is your time to shine, man.
Yeah.
So as Dave mentioned, and it's funny because we were talking about Tron and we were talking about virtual reality, digitalization. I guess is that a word?
Yeah.
And all those different kinds of things. And as he mentioned, this was a Zoom premiere. And this is the first time I've ever gone to one of these. Because I guess this is probably becoming more popular in the pandemic world, that folks are doing these sort of virtual premieres. There are virtual film festivals that are going on now. So this format, I think, is going to become sort of more popular for a while, I think, because I think that this is something that we're going to continue to see. So this is the first time I ever had this experience. And I do want to thank Russ Emanuel for inviting me. It's definitely got me thinking about how to do my premiere for Connection Established, and I'm going to take some ideas from this experience. But I did take just a few screen captures, so I thought I would show them to you. This is actually the poster for Routine, and we were talking about this a little bit off the air. This poster. Basically, just to kind of explain it a little bit, the premise of this movie, it starts off with basically the main character waking up for a day and showing us her routine. So that's how it relates to the poster. So we can see here, this is her basically the main character getting up in the morning, and that's what the poster that they're using to promote the project. From the actual Zoom premiere itself, we did the little Brady Bunch thing. You can actually see the orange highlighted tile there, and that is Russ Emanuel, the director, with a lot of the cast and crew. I was basically a special guest. I appreciate it. I actually did get a special thanks credit in this film. I appreciate that, Russ. Thanks a lot. And the reason I got that was because I was the one who introduced Russ to Dave. And so this was a fun thing. Again, I've never done this. I've never used Zoom before. This is the first time I've even used Zoom because I do a lot of my Zoom style stuff with StreamYard. We use StreamYard to produce the show. And so I don't use Zoom a lot. I actually use StreamYard for a lot of applications that you might use for Zoom. So that was interesting for me. Here's a picture of the actual main character, the main actress in the film. I apologize, her name escapes me at the moment right now, but you can kind of see Russ there in the bottom corner. And it's kind of funny because I just did this screen capture randomly, and they're both looking in the same direction. So the bigger image is actually from the premiere. That's actually from the film. And then you can see the little image of Russ sort of reacting to it as the film is going. And then we did another sort of the Brady Bunch style picture here, again with a lot of the cast and crew. They had people here that were involved with the score. It does have a nice little score. There's a song featured in it that they actually, it's sort of like a kind of punk, rock and roll kind of song that's also featured in it. But it was a lot of fun, I have to say. It was really interesting. It's got me definitely thinking, about some ideas about how I might do something like this, as far as doing a Zoom premiere or something like that for Connection Established. But it was just a kind of a unique experience, and it's kind of interesting in this pandemic world how things like this are being accomplished because they still are being accomplished, and it's kind of not nice. Russ even did a Q&A after showing the film. He actually showed it twice to us because it is very short. I would call it a micro short because it is less than 5 minutes, and I think technically that is the definition of a micro short if it's less than 5 minutes. It's like 4.5 minutes, but I enjoyed it. I wish I could talk more about or show images of your involvement specifically, Dave, because Dave did some original artwork, but I feel like if I showed that would sort of be a spoiler. And so I think I have to be careful with that. I might reach out to Russ just to see if there's some stuff we could show on the show, or maybe Dave, you could reach out to Russ and see if there's anything that he thinks is appropriate for promotional use, because that's a big that's a big payoff of the film. Dave's involvement is a huge payoff of the film because the film itself, like I said, is really, really short. And Dave's artwork is actually like kind of steals the show. It really does. I mean, it's excellent. You did a great job, Dave. It's really cool stuff.
Oh, well, thanks. It's like I said before, we talked about it. It's hard for me to get too specific about my involvement without it revealing, too much of the story away, because the artwork I contributed plays more of a storytelling role than you would think. Like if I was to tell you, what it was that I did in a general sense, you would go, oh, okay, well, that's kind of fun. But when you see the execution of it, it's so integral. And again, like I said, I haven't seen it still, and I apologize. I've been so busy. But I know from talking to Russ, and I know what I've drawn, it's, if you show the wrong image, it gives something away because it's a continuation of the storytelling. It's not really the end of the storytelling. So
yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it. That's exactly right. And so that's why we have to be kind of cryptic in what we say. Like I said, it is a very short film, so it's hard to say too much about it. Other than I think people will enjoy it. So if you hear about this, I know Russ is putting it out there on the film festival circuit. So hopefully we'll have more news. We'll definitely follow this story as far as where you might be able to watch this film. And I just want to tell you, congrats, Dave. I think you did excellent work, and I was very impressed. And it's a fun movie.
Well, thank you. And along those lines, it's interesting because I have been, I talked at the beginning of the show the launch of Kirby Tees, and part of what helped make Kirby Tees a possibility was actually the Routine project, because I did get paid to work on it, which is really awesome. And that's what helped actually, get that actually launched. That was the last little bit I needed to push it over the edge and pull the trigger. So that this project was good in a lot of ways, but it also helped to usher in this other new venture, this other new thing. So it's all kind of cool how sometimes things work together and build and, lead to another path or open a different door. So, but no, yeah, thanks. I appreciate all the positive comments. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And I'm very proud of what I've done. and from what I had seen, because I have seen some of it because I was working on it, so I have seen some of it. So it's not like I'm completely in the dark. I mean, I kind of know, at least the live action portions of it, how that works. So, no, but it was a cool project, and thanks again for introducing me to Russ. I mean, if you hadn't brought me on to Occupants, none of this would have ever happened. So it's very cool. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. As I mentioned, actually, I did that in a public tweet too, because Russ said something along the same lines on my Twitter. I said, "Hey, I'm always happy to help a friend get work." So you don't have to thank me for that. I'm always happy to do that. But I did want to mention one thing about this film also is that it was done. Russ does live in the Los Angeles area. He does basically live in Hollywood. He did this basically with like quarantine rules in place. So that's one of the other reasons that it's so short, and also it is very simple because they were very limited in who they could have involved. So as my understanding is, it was basically just Russ, his director of photography, Emile Harris, and the actress. And I apologize, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, because I did think she did an excellent job. They were doing it with these sort of quarantine, these shelter-in-place rules, which are pretty strict in California, stricter than they are here in Arizona. And interestingly enough, that does relate to my project because we took a totally different approach to doing a film with the shelter-in-place rules, in that we did it kind of the way that we're doing our show right now. We basically did it on StreamYard. So we didn't have the actors actually interact at all, except for one scene where the director of photography did have to do a green screen setup for one actor. So we did have, two people together in a room for one of the scene. Well, I should say one of the characters, because he's in multiple scenes. So we took a little bit different approach, but I also related to that because I was kind of trying to do the same thing that Russ has already done, is in terms of trying to film something with all these crazy shelter-in-place rules and things like that. It is a challenge.
Well, and I will mention that one of the, my contribution, the thing that makes it unique, is in the same way that the Occupants comic book, basically, shows you more of the world and is able to do more in terms of budget and setting than what the film actually can do. In the same way, because of what's going on with the pandemic and everything, my contribution does the same idea. It expands the world, and you get a better sense of what may have actually been possible to film if maybe circumstances had been kind of different. Because but on the same point too, I think it loses some of the novelty. I think there's something novel in the approach, and again, that was all Russ's idea. It's not like I had this idea at all. He just contacted me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'm working on this thing and I want to try this. What do you think?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a terribly interesting concept and idea." And it takes something that a lot of us have seen before, but it uses it in a slightly different way, and it makes it a little bit more unique. And so, yeah, but that's the thing that's kind of fun, is that, my contribution kind of helps to fill in some of the gaps because of the restrictions. It does kind of take you out into the world and gives you a better sense of what's sort of going on. So
right on. Yeah, I agree with that. And it is a unique approach, and it kind of shows you, that's kind of how this is how people go forward. This is actually how people achieve greatness, is that you take a crisis situation and you actually use it to your advantage to do something different and cool. And this is a great example of that. Like that, this approach to, well, there's certain things I just can't film right now. I really just can't film on location right now. It's just not a possibility. It's out of my hands. So, hey, maybe I'll get a comic book artist involved and actually show you some of the imagery that I can't film right now. It's brilliant. It's a great idea. And who knows? It's a model that might be emulated by other filmmakers in the future. And you may be a trendsetter there, Dave. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Sometimes being a trendsetter ain't all it's cracked up to be, but this is a fun project to be a part of. So
I hear that. I definitely hear that.